Okay. How about if I? We good? Folks, I'm going to call the meeting to order, the regular board meeting for Plainfield Charter Township for June 12th, 2023. So we'll begin our meeting with the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Jack.
Ready? Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for our country and the freedom of speech and assembly that allows us to be here tonight. Lord, there are conflicts all around us. Ukraine and Russia are in conflict. The Democrats and Republicans are constantly feuding. Conflict is even in our homes and in our hearts. Help us to understand that the only source of true peace is you, the Prince of Peace. We ask you to bless our time here together. Thank you for our new firefighters. May we all be in your will tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you, everyone. Next item is for public comments. If you wish to make any public comments regarding township business or the like, this is your time. If anybody'd like to do that, I don't see anybody making a movement, so I'll close the floor for public comment, and we will move on to the review of our consent agenda. Without any questions, comments, concern from the board members, I would seek a motion for the approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
I make a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and the accounts payable.
Thank you, Jack. Support?
I'll support that.
Thank you, Bill. Sue, would you please conduct roll call vote?
Yes. Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow, yes.
All right.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is a presentation by our fire chief, Mr. McKellar. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm on. Okay. Tonight I have the honor and privilege to introduce one of our newly promoted members of the fire department to the township board. We are here to swear for a swearing-in ceremony and the pinning of the badge to his new position. As you know, the fire service is one of the world's most honored yet dangerous occupations. When there is an emergency in our community, the fire department is one of the first on the scene. At this time, it is my great honor to introduce to you our new member, newly promoted member of Riley Niehaus to equipment operator. Mrs. Morrow, seeing you have the privilege of clerking tonight,
I do.
would you please
Let's
swear in?
turn around so everybody can see you. And me. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Riley Niehaus,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to do my duty as an equipment operator
to do my duty as an equipment operator
for Plainfield Charter Township,
for Plainfield Charter Township,
to serve the citizens of Plainfield Township
to serve the citizens of Plainfield Township
with compassion,
with compassion,
courage,
courage,
and integrity,
and integrity,
to serve my commanding officers
to serve my commanding officers
with respect
with respect
and dignity,
and dignity,
to work as a team
to work as a team
with my peers,
with my peers,
to nurture and develop
to nurture and develop
those that are placed under me.
those that are placed under me.
I will uphold the laws
I will uphold the laws
and the Constitution
and the
of the
Constitution
United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the state of Michigan,
the state of Michigan,
and Plainfield Charter Township,
and Plainfield Charter Township,
and the mission,
and the mission,
vision,
vision,
and core values
and core values
of Plainfield Township Fire Department.
of Plainfield Township Fire Department.
I will faithfully
I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as an equipment operator
as an equipment operator
of Plainfield Charter Township
of Plainfield Charter Township
Fire Department
Fire Department.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Are you doing pictures?
Not yet. Thank you, Mrs. Morrow. Township Supervisor, Mr. Coleman, would you have some comments for our newly promoted employee?
I do, Riley. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. You're joining a fantastic team. We're very proud of our fire department here, and we know you'll be an excellent addition to that department, okay? With that said, I'd like to offer a prayer. Dear God, we pray that this newly promoted member of the fire department, we pray for the newly promoted member of the fire department. We pray that you will protect him as he goes into uncertain incidents and dangers as he fulfills his duties he is sworn here to uphold. Holy God, give him clarity of mind to recall the training he has had. Give him nerves of steel as he encounters stresses in his routine job that most people can never even imagine. Give him the strength and courage to do the job he is sworn and affirmed to do here today. Holy Father, keep his family in your great arms of love as he goes into harm's way as he does his job. Lord, keep him from danger and keep him safe. Through thy holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Welcome.
Riley, I'm proud to recognize the commitment and sacrifice you have endured by providing the level of competency, compassion, and professionalism in the Plainfield Fire Department. This commitment to the fire service involves the sacrifice of leaving your family and home and adhere to the required instructional hours, continuing education, and countless hours of preparatory time. Moreover, your brothers and sisters of Plainfield Fire Department wish to recognize the sacrifice your family will continue to struggle with as they cope with the 24-hour shifts that you'll be working, and even worse, the call of the alarm when you're off shift, at all times of the day without regard to holiday, birthday, church, family, social events, or even evening dinners. The fire service is a noble calling, one which is founded on mutual respect and trust between the firefighters and the citizens they serve. To ensure this continuity, the continuing integrity of the fire service, the highest standard and ethical conduct must always be maintained. I close with, I have the utmost confidence in your commitment to continue to uphold these traditions. Now please accept this badge as your commitment to uphold these values and wear it with pride. So would you come forward? Chief Duvall. Hey.
Congratulations.
That's all I have, sir, for now.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Riley's used to this. Always gotta,
Where do you want us?
let's just get rid of here. Whoever wants to be the. Right here is. Oh, nice. Don't smile at all, please.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our new business. Our first item is to approve the purchase of a 2024, is it Rosenbauer? Rosenbauer. I should know that, but Commander FX pumper for the fire department at the cost of $825,164. Chief, come on up and talk to us.
You don't want to start first, Cameron?
I just said I'll let you go after, but whoever.
We have a new firefighter, we need a new vehicle, right?
Exactly.
Right.
He's an expensive addition, Chief, but,
Yep.
okay, a new guy gets the best truck. Go.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay. In our 6-year capital plan that you all seen at the last budget hearing back in August, our plan was to actually start replacing the aerial truck. The aerial truck is a 1993 E1 95-foot platform truck. But we started looking at our maintenance costs on our fleet throughout, and we ended up doing an NFPA evaluation of our older apparatus in our fleet. The same evaluation that the City of Grand Rapids does. And what we found is that our 1993 platform truck scored higher than our 2008 Rosenbauers did. Mainly, of course, the years the platform scored higher, but it was basically the mileage, the hours in service, the service hours, and the condition of the truck. And we've, both of these Rosenbauers have had and will have some major repairs coming up in the future. So we decided to move that aerial back 2 years because it scored much higher than the 2008 engines did. With the maintenance that we've put into the aerial over the years, it is still a very, very strong and reliable apparatus in our fleet. Like I said, we refurbed it back in 2009 or 10. Where's the job? Okay, yeah, about 10 years ago. And after that, we have rebuilt the powertrain, did some engine work, did some transmission work, repiped the whole aerial with new stainless steel pipe for the pump. Pump has been rebuilt, so it is a very reliable truck. Right now, the only downfall this truck has is the proprietary truck. So if we need little switches and stuff that are E1, it can be time-consuming to find those switches. Fire department feels confident this truck will serve its purpose for several years to come. That is why we move these trucks forward. In 2024, 2025, 2026, I've scheduled $500,000 for the replacement of the aerial, but I have adjusted that now to where we moved. It says $300,000 in 27 and 28. I've changed that to $400,000 for both years. Move those forward to 2025, 24 and 25, and move the aerial to start rebuilding it or start pricing it out, bidding it out in 2026 with on a three-year payment plan. We would pay for this vehicle, this new this new apparatus like we have in the past over a 2 budget year. So basically a 2 payment plan, one We'll pay for the chassis in 2024, and we'll pay for the final payment will come in 2025 upon delivery. So it's kind of like a instant interest-free loan for 2 years. And we're just paying half and half. And doing that, they have given us some pretty good discounts. One thing too, at the first of this month, there was a projected 5% increase. Rosenbauer has held off on that increase because of this bid being in, and they know we could not meet until June 12th. They've held that price for the next week or two after this meeting. So that is, that 5%, in my simple math, over 800,000, that's a $40,000 savings. So the bid came in at higher than the 825, but we've with the discounts that we were able to obtain and some of the equipment that was bid in the proposal that we deducted, we brought that down about $50,000. So I think it came in at 869, so we're at 820.25 now. I can't think of anything else right now. It kind of covers my memo that I sent along with the apparatus committee memo that was sent with me, so.
I think one important key to point out, as we look at this, we've seen equipment prices escalate rapidly,
Right.
Even faster than inflation, and we don't anticipate that changing course anytime soon. It's certainly not by the time we're certainly going to be in dire need to replace that engine.
Right.
So pushing it off a year or two, we don't think that that's going to reflect in a cost savings. In fact, it could, as things are progressing, it could actually be a continued increase.
This is basically the same truck with a few minor changes that we took delivery in 2021, that we signed the contract in late 2019. That was $515,000. So that's every 90 days they have about a 5% increase. So we're trying to beat this 5% increase. So.
Okay, anything further?
I think Chief did a great job of explaining. We had money budgeted for a truck, just a different truck, and so as he and I talked, he's got $500,000 budgeted for next year. It'd actually be about $413,000, and he's promised to me he's not going to budget for anything else, right? You're going to keep it.
Well, you see what else I budgeted for 2024, so projected, but that's our normal
Pick
stuff.
it up somewhere else. So.
Yep.
But no, he's done a good job of projecting out needs in the 6-year capital plan, and the fire department actually does a great job of projecting needs out well beyond 6 years. They look out 20 years, so they have a pretty firm grasp of what their needs will be coming up, and so we feel very confident that by switching these trucks, we're not going to see just this landslide of other things that are going to come with it, but things will pop up. That's inevitable. We know a big one is the bottom line, which I don't even trust that number for 2028 of fire station remodel of $1.5 million. I think that's a down payment. I think it's gonna be a whole lot more than that, especially by then. But outside of that, a lot of these things are far more predictable for the fire department. They do a good job of putting their budget numbers together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Take a break a second, and
Yeah.
we will open the floor for public comment. Have you come back up if we need you. So anyone like to make public comment on this issue? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the floor for that. We'll move on to board discussion. Jack, you want to start us off?
I did have a question. You said that you did a study, they did a study, like what Grand Rapids did, and found that the Rosenbergers, and you used the term burgers plural, and you're buying one truck, so I'm a little confused by that.
Well, we'd be replacing the one that that was graded out the worst, and we'll get it probably professionally graded out too. We're looking at some on both of these trucks, some frame rail problem that's going on. We're going to replace one, and the other one will be still still in our reserve. That's the one we will do some major repair on after we take delivery of this in 2025. So the fleet's not going to, we're not reducing the fleet, we're just replacing one of the two.
One of the two.
Right, we're gonna save the better, one that grades out better professionally.
I trust and know that you guys have done a great job planning ahead, and I don't have any problem with that. I feel a little uneasy making a decision for a new board that will be in place on late 2024. Hopefully that won't affect them too much, but if we need it, we need it. So, thanks.
Thank you, Jack. Sue?
Yes, we have a thank you again to our committee. I really appreciate all those names on that list of people who worked so diligently to get this, this truck all spec'd out, I guess is the word, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
They did do a good job.
Where is it going to be built?
At Rosenbauer.
And where is that?
That is in North or South Dakota? South Dakota.
And is the used truck saleable? Are you going to get rid of a truck?
We will get rid of one truck. Typically, in the past, we've put it on the county's website for used equipment, and lately we take what we can get because used equipment does not resale very well at all. But
In fact, we found we're far more likely to find bidders that are outside of the fire service for these older vehicles. They may repurpose these trucks for other uses. That the problem that other fire services run into is the same reason that we're decommissioning this vehicle. No longer meeting the standards for fire service for frontline fire response, and so that makes it not a great vehicle for another department either. But components of the truck might be usable for other purposes.
So you're saying that there is a financial value to it?
Minimal.
Not much.
Minimal.
Okay.
What we get on the last one we sold?
yeah,
2 trucks for $25,000.
Oh, we won't count, no.
No.
Okay. Gosh, I had an idea in my head. Too bad. Anyway, again, job well done, and I think that even though 3 members are missing tonight, I think that it's important to go ahead and cast this vote tonight.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Bill?
Folks, I think tonight is a sort of a historical night for us because I believe that this will be the last time that we will be able to buy a fire engine that's driven by petroleum. I think very soon now, we're going to have to convert to electrical driven, and they're a lot more expensive than this, but it's coming, so just be prepared for it. And this is needed now, and we'll be able to use it for several years, but the next is going to be the electric-driven cars, so. Good work, though, on the board there, and I know you work hard at it, and I know your firemen do excellent job, so.
thank you.
Good luck with this new truck.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I have no issue with this. You guys do a good job, and I trust you know what vehicles you need, and it's our job to supply those, so I'm good. So at this time, I'd seek a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2024 Rosenbauer fire engine at the cost of $825,164.
Thank
I'll
you.
support that.
Thank you, Susan. Support from Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Morrow, yes. Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes?
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And lastly, I'd like just to thank my apparatus team, Chief Drake. Who else we have here? Lieutenant Denemy. Anybody else? Who's the other 2 that are on? Lieutenant Buchanan and Equipment Operator Grady. They did an excellent job, many hours, so I'd just like to thank them. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So our next item of business is to consider the purchase of an additional columbarium, I hope I didn't butcher that too bad, for the Plainfield Cemetery. Cameron, I'm guessing the chief isn't on this one,
No,
this
not,
is you.
this is not the chief's.
It's been all about him tonight.
Wouldn't put that on him
It's all
tonight.
about the chief tonight.
So actually Tina came to me and let me know a little bit ago that this is a photo of our current columbarium. And all the, I think niches is what they call it, or basically they're like, as I understand, little drawers that you put cremains, the ashes of your loved one. And ours is full. The last few spots have been sold, and there is demand for more. This is not something that we had budgeted for this year, and so I'm bringing it before you as a new business item because this is not a budgeted request. However, talking with Tina, we also think we need to look at the cost that we're charging for this because the cost for the new columbarium must have been significantly more than the last one because at the number of units and the rate we're charging, we would probably only recover about half of it. So our intent would be look at our fees and balance that out so that we would recover the cost of this columbarium over time. The popularity of these has increased in recent years, and so we anticipate this is something that may go quickly, and we may end up with more of these in the cemetery down the road. But we wanted to satisfy that current demand for space, and so that's why we're bringing this to you early outside the budget process. We'd like to get this in place yet this year before we explore what we're going to do with future spots down the road. So the total price for this is, it's in the memo, $8,700. There it is. Thank you. $8,700. And Tina makes that comment too, that we currently sell the spots for $400. We should review that so that it balances out what the actual cost is to the township.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wish to make a public comment on this? Mr. Spalding, you know the routine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Art Spalding, 3301 Sunset Bluff. As you know, I have a great deal of interest in Plainfield Cemetery, it being my future home. I have been to the cemetery to inspect the existing columbarium, and I find it to be in keeping with the rest of the cemetery and not objectionable, and I support it, although I think it perhaps will be better if it's located in a different location than nearby to the existing one. I would only support Cameron's comments about the cost because the $8,700 did not also include the cost of laying the foundation, which I assume that staff will be doing, so there's some additional cost there. I'm not looking to make a profit, but we ought to at least break even on the cost for the future use of the columbarium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the floor for public comment. Board discussion. Bill, you have anything?
I'm just trying to get my head around what kind of a gadget this thing is. What do you have, the cremated remains in it like that? And you, instead of having like, right now we have where we can put two cremation remains on one grave site, we would be able to put many more on the sites or the ground that we have open. Is that the way of it?
That's exactly right. In fact, it's actually a huge convenience for actually doing a burial for the staff because, especially in the winter, you're not digging into the ground. It's basically like a drawer that you're opening and placing it in. So there's no more taking out the backhoe to try to open a grave, especially when the ground's frozen. And you know, there's a lot of families that are requesting these, and it really is a convenience factor for the families. It's a convenience factor for staff as well. Obviously, a burial doesn't take nearly as much staff time to make that happen. Case in point, we had a request today from a funeral home came in this morning for a burial this afternoon. They're supposed to give us 48 hours notice. Apparently, they claimed they tried on Saturday, couldn't get a hold of anyone. But that's for a full burial, so we had to go out there with the equipment, dig it up. If that same thing were to happen with this, there'd be far less of a hindrance to make sure that we can make that happen in time for the family.
There's like a compartment in each one of these, is that it? Yeah, I kind of figured that was it, but that's a good use of the space we have left available. And at that stage of our existence, we don't give too much difference there, so.
And that's a good point too, Bill. It will preserve a lot of space within the cemetery. Obviously, there's a lot more use of vertical space in something like this. It takes up, roughly the space of one burial plot. And you've got, maybe a dozen individuals in the space of one burial plot. So it does conserve a lot of space as well.
So I have like 6 graves, and then I could take one of these, and then you could bury others on the other 5 graves that I have?
You would own those plots, so unless you release them back to the township, the answer would be no. But that's another thing Tina anticipates too, more families looking into having a family columbarium where,
Right.
like you were saying, you could take one plot, have something like this, and have a dozen spaces for your family all together in one place.
Togetherness that way.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Susan?
I like the idea when we put up the first one, and I like the idea of another one.
Thank you. Jack?
I would hope that Mr. Spaulding's future home would be heaven instead of the Plainfield Cemetery. Very good point taken. Yeah, I have no problem with this.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this is just an easy item. So I'll seek a motion at this time.
I move to approve the purchase of a columbarium for Plainfield Township Cemetery from Patton Monument in the amount of $8,700.
I'll support that.
Thank you, Susan. Support from Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes,
and Mrs. Morrow, yes. Motion carries.
Okay, item C, discuss the use of ARPA funds for Plainfield Avenue. Cameron?
Okay, so I want to bring the board up to speed on some of the conversations staff have had with MDOT recently. As we've discussed, MDOT intends to do a repaving of Plainfield Avenue in 2025. That will be from, outside of our boundaries. It'll be from the Interstate 96 interchange up into Airway. So we can't see Airway right here, but it's right about there. Yep. So that section of Plainfield is intended to be repaved. Now, in the mind of MDOT, they're going to grind up some of the surface, lay down new asphalt, and be on their way. That's the design of their project. But we want to take advantage of this opportunity to incorporate some of the vision elements of our Plainfield corridor plan. And one of the biggest, most common comments we heard from our residents is they'd like to see a more green corridor, meaning, more trees, more vegetation, less asphalt, less pavement, less parking lot, less of what they see today. We've taken that to heart and worked with our consultants at Progressive AE to take a deep dive into how we might make that happen on the corridor. And one thing they've identified, just in the stretch that we're discussing for us from 4 Mile up to Airway, they have identified no less than 77 curb cuts that could potentially be eliminated. And that does a couple of things. When you have a lot of curb cuts like we do now, and a lot of corridors, like commercial corridors, have this, you have a lot of potential accident sites. You've got cars slowing down, popping out of driveways or entrances. There's just a lot going on. The more you reduce that, the less you're going to have those conflict points. Think of the Beltline, where you've got a roadway with a median and far less drives coming off of that. at least the sections of the belt line that perform better. You see those, and fire department probably would probably confirm this as well. You see a lot more of the accidents on the belt line, probably at intersections, than you do, between intersections in those broad areas without any drives or medians that cut through medians. But Plainfield Avenue, we see it all the time. There's some areas that one that really bugs me in particular because I see problems all the time.
No.
Huntsberger's a bad one, but Woodworth, if we can get our map to show up here. Woodworth, it's an irregular intersection that also has some driveways on the other side. And there's a popular breakfast location right here I think you're aware of. And if you're coming down Plainfield and you want to get in there, you have to get into, there it is, okay. So if you want to get to Anna's house, which is here, you've got to pull into the turn lane, right? Opposing traffic might be coming at you. These gentlemen could tell you how many times they've had to respond to an accident in that area. And so you've got just a number of these, and as you look at this, you actually have two curb cuts next to each other. You've got a number of those types of situations everywhere where you've got just a plethora of curb cuts. There could be a lot more shared access between these businesses. In fact, we've required it now when new development happens. That's why you see things like this. When O'Reilly's came in, they were required to provide cross access to the next business. Now, sometimes you will see businesses not happy about that, and they'll try to barricade that, but we've been working through that as well. Here's another good point. This gas station actually has 3 curb cuts, and one of them is right at the intersection. So these are the kind of areas that we're working with MDOT to rectify these, and by removing this curb cut, we've instantly added some more green space, and additionally, now you see overhead lines here, we could potentially add some street trees. They'd have to be something that's compliant with overhead power lines so that they're dwarf trees, they don't grow quite as tall, but there's a number of opportunities to do that. But I think we have even bigger potential for visual impact. Sorry, I'm going a little fast up the corridor here. Hope you track along with where we're going. We're moving up to the Jupiter intersection now. And as we look at this intersection, we've identified areas that really make sense for the first insertion of additional medians. You'll notice that there's areas that are already striped as not a travel lane. So there's already pavement that's not being used, very intentionally not being used. We think we could work with MDOT to create some sort of median in here, maybe put a couple of trees in to really soften the aesthetic of the corridor. And here on the other side as well, our traffic engineers have identified you've got 2 turn lanes to go north on Jupiter that extend way, way, way back. And I don't know if anyone has ever seen, outside of an accident or something, seen stacking in both lanes as far back as this, where it's wide enough to have 2 cars. So this has also been identified as an area that potentially could have some median. You could even have a median and still have a little turn, a left turn lane for Miramar here or something like that. So there's a number of opportunities, but really what this comes down to, MDOT says that's all well and good, but we're not paying for it. And so as we talk about fulfilling our Plainfield Avenue vision, it's time to start looking at how are we going to fund that. And we'll certainly go after grant opportunities as they're available. But we do have an influx of cash from the ARPA program that could be put to this as well. And so I think that's a good place for us to put our money where our mouth is and use that as matching money as we go forward. And we have talked with MDOT about if we were to put our own capital forward on some of these projects, is there other pots of MDOT money to go after? And they've indicated that there are some that we could look at as matching projects. And they've indicated if we were to, say, spend some money on this project in the next couple of years, even though it's not at the same time, we could use some of what we've spent there as match for a future grant through an MDOT program. So it'd be an investment into a future extending of that aesthetic down the corridors. We tried to soften Plainfield Avenue, put in these natural elements that slow the traffic, and by slow, we really want to slow it to the speed limit. We're not talking about slowing it to a crawl. We're talking about it's posted at 45. We'd actually like people to drive 45, not 65. And it's that variety of speed that really causes a lot of safety issues. So these are some of the things that we're discussing right now, and you know, as these discussions progress, we can bring back a more robust developed plan for you to explore. But we're in that first negotiation stage with MDOT right now. And I'd like to be able to commit to them that we have capital to bring to the table. Right now, we have roughly $3 million in ARPA that we haven't directly allocated, and we'll get into that when we get into the budget session in August. My proposal is that we take a good chunk of that and put that towards Plainfield Avenue, and I would advocate as much as $2 million, not just for this, but for a variety of projects that really push forward our Reimagine Plainfield effort, and that I would call seed money into getting this corridor started, turned around, and moving towards the direction that we want it to go. There's any number of other capital improvement items that we've identified that we want to address, and so we could discuss those too when we get to budget time. But this is something that I would like to hear your feedback on Plainfield Avenue and the relevance of this to pushing forward our vision.
Oh, boy. Who wants to start this one? I'm looking right at you, Jack. Okay, it's you. It's all you.
I've been a proponent of green space on Plainfield right when we started this. I have a problem with doing it piecemeal, however. I would not like to see us, well, fix this and fix this and fix this and leave all the rest the same. My vision is more like Allendale Township, where you got M45 going through and you have an island of green space right from the start to the end of it, with trees and all of that. And that's a state road, as I recall, and MDOT did something with that. So I don't know why they can't do something here. I know times have changed, but that's a little older, little while ago. But the other thing I'm wondering about is they're going to work from 4 Mile north. Our township line is 5 Mile. How is that going to work with, if we want changes to 5 Mile north, it would really look strange to have a great change from 5 Mile north and then 4 to 5 Mile is just really, or the freeway to 5 Mile is just more of the same. So I'm not sure how that would work, but maybe you have some answers to that.
Clarify, I think you meant 4 Mile when you're saying 5 Mile. So the township boundary is here.
4 Mile, yeah, but you're going from the freeway.
And they're starting from the freeway. And you may have noticed in the last couple of years, so we're actually passing through 2 different jurisdictions. So we got City of Grand Rapids and then Grand Rapids Township on this side and a little piece on this side. City of Grand Rapids has actually done a lot of streetscaping along here. And I don't know if this picture is new enough to show it. This is a little bit older. I don't think it shows at all. They've done a lot of this. They've added a lot of sidewalk and trees along here. Not so much the center median that we have talked about, that's not in place. There's certainly some need throughout the corridor. I would say this is a big area where if you're traveling this, you'll see people jaywalking across in a very dangerous fashion. People are coming quickly around a bend, and then there's someone standing and walking across the middle of the road. That's something that we've looked at for our section as well. How do you incorporate safer passage for pedestrians? That's a tricky thing to do. We have talked with City of Grand Rapids. We can talk with Grand Rapids Township about, a common aesthetic, and I'm sure that, they'd be willing to talk with us.
Maybe they have ARPA funds that they can put towards this too.
Some of it comes down to priority as well. Is that really where they want to invest their dollars, and so that may take some convincing. But we also want to kind of set a tone too. And I hear what you're saying about doing it all at once. I think some of the challenge we may run into is if we do the entire stretch like that, what MDOT has identified as just a repaving job is a $7 million job. That's just to mill up and repave in place without altering the roadway, widening it in any way, or adding a median, or doing anything like that. And so we probably, to do something significant like what was done in Allendale for that segment, if repaving is 7 million, you're probably talking 20, 30 million to do something like that. So, and that's where we're gonna be challenged to come up with the funding for do it all at once. If we can get that, great. Part of what I would like to see us do is show our residents, we did a lot of work listening to you on what you want on Plainfield Avenue. We haven't just taken those comments and put them away on a shelf. We're actually starting to put it into place and use some of this opportunity as a first indication of what's to come. And so it does feel a little piecemeal, but you know, transition is gonna come over time. We know that. And so some of the greenscaping of the actual roadway is probably gonna have to come over time as well.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, I can see there's a problem with funding. Okay.
Thank you, Jack. Susan?
Thank you. I'm glad you have it on this picture up here right now. How did it happen that a bank has one side of the light all to itself? At Bank of America. I guess what I'm saying, can we stop that?
But I don't think we can undo what has been done. What we could do, so you talk about this intersection right
Yes.
here.
Mhm.
So I think what Sue is referring to, you've got a traffic light here for Woodworth, but also a light coming out of this drive, because otherwise you may never get out of here at certain times of day. What we talked about is how do you make this a shared access point and maybe close this so that all the traffic is funneled to the light right here. Our problem is this is private property after a certain point. Okay, here's the right-of-way line at the back of the sidewalk. Now we're dealing with private property. It's not insurmountable, but now you have to get willing participants. We can compel things when a property is being developed or redeveloped, but to have an existing structure and they're not making any alterations, we would have to otherwise entice them. So, you know, either we're funding an easement or making, and that's where some of this money will be important too. If we're asking a business to close a curb cut, first of all, I think that's gonna be a battle. I think a lot of them are gonna say, I don't wanna give up anything that I already have. But then to ask them to pay for it themselves on top of that, I think that conversation will end very quickly. There's some of these that are pretty obvious to us, are unnecessary, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily gonna be easy to convince a building owner. Here's a prime example. This is a curb cut into a building that has no door for a vehicle. Maybe there was at one time. I don't know how this building was structured back when this curb cut was put in place. But if you look at this, you're looking at the front of, there's a pawn shop here, and I don't recall what's exactly right here right now. At one point, it was an axe throwing place. It's just a storefront window. There's absolutely no need for this curb cut. But we've run into this in the past. You have a property owner who says, well, I don't need it today, but why would I give up something for nothing? And what if I want to use that in the future? So even something like this, we may run into challenges where a property owner isn't going to willingly give up something for nothing. So we're just starting that conversation. We need to approach property owners about opportunities, but we do think it's going to be a heavy lift to move through these. There's 77 objects like this that we've identified. We do not think we're going to even approach all 77 from the start. We've already gone through a process of prioritizing, trying to slim that list. You know, what are the top 20 that we really want to see closed from either a safety standpoint or traffic flow standpoint, or just a, wow, this just seems like this is completely useless. Why do we have that? Or go up the street, why do we have one here and one here? I understand why they were built. They're built for different property owners. There's a property line there. But do we need to continue to do it that way? Or can we entice combination of these drive entrances? Another element we've talked about is these tapers. MDOT has encouraged these, but what we found is, they're largely not used, and you can see that in the winter. Look at tire tracks in the snow. You'll see that a lot of these just aren't used to the extent that they've been paved. And B, you get a car like this that's maybe they're starting to go that way. Well, they stay half in the travel lane, half in the taper till about here anyway. What have you gained? You can't get around them. You know, maybe they've used that as a deceleration a little bit, but it's not working like MDOT had originally intended. And basically you're just frustrating traffic. So that's other area too that could become green space.
I have a couple other suggestions that don't specifically relate to the roads, but what can we do? I see that they've renovated errands again, and they've not solved the flooding problem, have they? You're shaking your heads, no.
I don't believe they have.
How can they
fixed
rent
the-
that building?
You even see it on this aerial.
Yeah,
They've got a wet spot there. There's a number of these problems that are challenging to fix because they require, where's that water gonna go, right? You can either try to sink it on site or it's gotta go off site. And so now all of a sudden you've gotta work with the adjacent property owners.
and I guess, Cameron, from my standpoint as a taxpayer and somebody who drives that road, I don't hear it's been renovated again, and what's gonna happen? It's gonna fail again when the new renter finds out that there's a puddle there's a swimming pool in his front yard. To me, money would be well served to make that an honest-to-goodness taxable unit of, and if it means taking ARPA funds and doing something on private property that benefits the township, maybe that's, and another thing that I would like to suggest, sometimes we have the prettiest things and they are so poorly maintained. And boy, I know we're on YouTube tonight, but there's a gas station at the intersection of Jupiter that a year ago was gleaming, just beautiful. Everything was clean as can be. And the other day, I stopped there and I thought, gosh, what would it take to clean this? And what the reason that popped to my head was that we happened to be in Comstock Park when the street sweepers came through, paid for by DDA. That's what they told us. In Comstock Park?
I don't know if the DDA is paying for street sweeper. I think that's road commission.
Well, whatever
For
it
a lot
is,
of things, I don't think they're paying for a street sweeper, but anyway, that's
some
neither here
sort
nor
of,
there.
right, some sort of encouragement for cleanliness, for, and it's not dirt, it's cigarette butts, it's something spilled, and to me, it's hiring a high school kid to come once a day and sweep the parking lot. And so, anyway, those were a couple of the things. I still wish there was some way we could bury those overhead lines. But, $2 million was the last I heard, and that was only at the intersection of 4 Mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not even possible. But still, I don't know what you do about private property, but Aaron's, it's private, but it's failing, and we watch it fail.
I think the best answer for that is not an easy answer. It is create an environment where the private owners will want to invest in that because their property has become more valuable. Someone else wants to swoop it up and make it into something else. And so, I point out, down the road, the Wendy's that's not in Plainfield, but just down Plainfield Avenue, it wasn't that long ago that the Wendy's restaurant, almost there, here it is, they completely demolished the building and rebuilt it. And in doing so, I'm sure that wasn't cheap, but it didn't make, it didn't make hamburgers flip any faster. It didn't change the taste of their product. So why do they do that, right? So they value the aesthetic, they value the customer experience. And so businesses like major chains like that understand that, and so they'll make that investment in something that doesn't make their product any cheaper, any faster, or any better. It's just the customer experience. And so as we build out our vision, I think we'll still start to see some of that. It's that little bit of peer pressure, right? So you don't want to be the ugliest. Most people don't want to be the ugliest house on the block. Some people don't seem to mind that, but most people want to keep up at least as well as the neighbors keep up.
Well, these two suggestions, the errands and the a focus on cleanliness, can happen now. We don't have to wait for MDOT to do something. And so even though I like the ideas of some of your things, I wish there was something that we could start on tomorrow and see something happen. And I think the public would appreciate that too. The thing with cleanliness just is so obvious. And I can't help but think that the people who would go fill up their gas tank the day after it was cleaned up would say, my goodness, they cleaned this place up.
Can I speak to that just a little bit?
Yes?
So there's probably 5 or 6 businesses from 4 Mile to 5 Mile
Yeah,
that have heard from me in different formats
really?
about their landscaping, about taking care of their property. Most of them performed. It may have taken numerous social media posts or emails to companies to get that done. Recently, I had one of our community police officers visit Walgreens at the corner because it took them, I don't know how long, to cut their grass for the first time this year. And right there is our little Plainfield corridor sign, which,
Still there.
you know that drives me nuts
Yeah.
from a long time ago. But, yeah, the aesthetics of Plainfield Avenue are less than desirable in a lot of locations. And so I just thought, I'll take it upon myself and start zapping these people, emailing them, social media blasting them. It gets some action, but then it goes away. So,
So it's pride in our community, but we haven't built up that pride because it continues. Aaron's is a good example.
correct. I don't know who the building owner is there, but
I don't either.
that's his issue. And I don't know what we can do to pressure that. Okay, Bill, your turn. Or are you done? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, Bill.
And thank you for extra time.
We got a ways to go on that, but did you notice a weed capital of Plainfield Township, the old Whitmark area there? Nothing's happening except the weeds are growing and the bushes are growing back. I thought I think we have to get on him and have him abide by the ordinances of our township.
Okay,
No higher than 12 inches.
okay. Thank you. Cameron, to the topic, I guess, spending money on Plainfield Avenue. It's a struggle for me thinking of ARPA funds that we could use for our community, our taxpayers, being spent on a state road. A lot of this is the state's problem, not ours. And I think we have a lot of places we could put $2 million that our community would appreciate more than a median on Plainfield Avenue. Now, having said that, we need something to happen on Plainfield Avenue. I think once something starts happening, maybe the snowball will roll down the hill, and to use an adage. I don't know how we get there, but it's a struggle for me to think about. I don't know that $2 million, how far is that gonna go in this project? I can only imagine turning money over to the state and say, do a project for us.
I would not take that approach.
Well, but they're gonna control that. It's an MDOT road. You're not gonna have anything to say about it, period. I mean, it's nice to ask them, and, you know, it's just the way it goes. I don't know, it's a struggle for me, it really is.
So I guess my response to that would be, look at the White Pine Trail, and there's a tunnel right out here under Jupiter. It is owned by the state of Michigan, and that tunnel has constant graffiti. And if we didn't paint over it regularly, it would always have constant graffiti, because that's the level of maintenance and care that the state of Michigan will put into it. Doesn't matter how many times you call them, doesn't matter how much you bug them. They certainly won't respond to a blast on social media. They simply just don't care. And so if Plainfield Township doesn't paint over the profanity in the tunnel, that's what our residents are gonna see. And I would say that that's the same thing on Plainfield Avenue. MDOT only cares about getting cars through as fast as possible, as cheap as possible.
But that's my point. If you could move the map back to, you know, where the Miramar, Ivy, Vineyard, all those street cuts that come into Plainfield Avenue. And I might not have the number exactly right, but when we posted our speed sign on Miramar, we had 66,000 cars in a week span use Miramar to cut through from 4 Mile to Plainfield Avenue. It's things like that, to me, that need to be addressed, not, and please don't take this wrong, I'm a fan, okay? But a pretty tree along the middle of Jupiter. That community with no sidewalks and an elementary school in it needs something done. I don't know what that is. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not, I don't, but we're talking about spending ARPA funds. That was your topic. It could be well spent in a lot of different ways. You may be spot on with what you're thinking, but I'd have to see what they're gonna do, what the costs of that are. To me, I'm fearful it's just a drop in the bucket. That's me.
I'm glad you brought up those side streets, because that is something else that we've been looking at too, tracking the numbers. You talked about the speed board. We also did separate traffic counts through there. And yeah, Miramar is definitely, Miramar here is definitely the most common cut through, followed by, I think, Jupiter from Holtman, and then it really declines from there. We've talked about that in regards to what ways can we cut that down for the residents in here in a meaningful way without reducing their own quality of life by making it hard to get to their own homes or out from their own homes. And so we've talked about, is there something at Plainfield that could happen? What can happen along here? Speed bumps are not the answer. First of all, Road Commission will not allow them. Second, they're not proven to be effective. What are the methods to slow traffic through here? So we're talking about those things as well. It is a bigger scope than just the road right away along Plainfield Avenue. How do we make this entire corridor more inviting? So we're at the starting point of that implementation, and which piece to try to move first is a good question. MDOT's repaving is kind of the trigger here.
Okay, I don't know.
So this is good feedback for me.
Okay.
This is something that we can take back to the team. We can develop plans that are more comprehensive. I guess I need to know is, are we wasting our time on a median at all? I'm hearing some in favor, some not, but we also have a portion of the board here tonight. But I don't want to waste time on something that is never going to fly.
I think we need more money from the state.
I don't know how to answer that without something to look at.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
I just in common responding to you, I have the same problem. I guess that's what I was talking about in terms of piecemeal. You do a little bit here, and you do a little bit there, and you do a little bit there, but the overall look of Plainfield stays the same. And I don't think we want that. I think we want it different. We want people to say, hey, this is really a good change. They're really starting something. And And I don't want us to start something and then walk away and say that that's it because we haven't got any more money, because that's still not gonna do the job. That's why I want the state to do it like Allendale, 7 million or whatever, they should.
Okay. good.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome, I think. Okay, your comments.
All right. I don't know if you recognized it when you passed consent agenda, but there was a point of celebration there. In this list, you approved the final proposal, the last bid to do water main extensions from the Wolverine consent decree. So congratulations. We gotta get the work done, but that was the last one to approve the bid. $62 million of water main extensions, roughly. And we've moved through that quite swiftly and with minimal problems to date. We did have in here a major work order change for an area along Pine Island, and this was an interesting one. This happened this spring as the crews were starting to work along Pine Island, and fortunately it was in this section here of Pine Island where we also have Pine Island Court running alongside it. We had initially planned to put the 16-inch portion of the main over here and run a separate main along here for these homes. When they got into here, they started digging and found soil with the quality of quicksand. And Matt Walden showed me a video of an excavator reaching down, and it just kept going. And you could see it sinking into the earth, but it just, like there was zero resistance there. So they very quickly recognized that that was just not gonna work for water main and decided to reroute it along here. It did cost a little bit extra. That was in the consent agenda tonight, but fortunately, this was the section that we ran into it, so we had an easy alternate path to make that happen. But really outside of that, things have gone very, very smoothly considering the size and complexity of this. Kudos goes to a number of individuals, goes to our water staff, obviously, goes to Brian Newhoff, obviously, for not just their oversight, but just engineering a really well-designed product from the start. And under some pretty strenuous conditions too, trying to design something that would meet our standard of quality that we have throughout our water system, with Wolverine pushing back and trying to cheapen it at every turn. So appreciate their work on that. And then the contractors. We've had good contractors, very, very good firms working on this and doing excellent work. So the final piece is the residents in this area none of whom asked for this, none of whom asked to have contaminated well water, municipal water. It's a result of consequence outside of their control. So appreciate their cooperation too in terms of hookups, easements, everything that we need to do to make this happen. So kudos all around for what has been a very, very smooth project so far. It's LPGA Tour Week. So this is the last we'll see of Tom because he'll be on the golf course.
See you later.
Do you know where you're gonna be, Tom? I'm going, 4 days, so.
I walk with a group, yes, yes,
Everywhere.
yes. So I'll see you at some point.
So hopefully the weather turns out well for that. A little rain was needed, but it'd be nice to get a little sunshine for the actual event days too. Another event that we had this week, Developer Day. So the second time we've done this, we thank you, our friends at the Right Place, for including us again this year. We had another tour, even bigger group than last year, looking at Plainfield Avenue, looking at some of those sites that we were just talking about, some of the development-ready sites. Getting good feedback. One of the things that we're hearing right now, the finances behind residential development just keep shifting. So between interest rates, material costs, labor costs, every project just seems to incrementally require more scale to make happen. And so those are headwinds that we didn't see 3-4 years ago when we were doing this plan, and it's changing rapidly. Now, hopefully it will correct, and interest rates will top out at some point and start to come back down. That's the natural element of it. And hopefully material costs tend to soften as well. And so some of these projects that we envision may be more profitable for developers down the road. But right now, we're starting to hear more and more from developers that the scale of project they would need to make the numbers work for them just doesn't fit in some of the sites that we had envisioned. So we'll keep working with them, figuring out what they need from our end to get projects going. But we are going to continue to see some challenging times, I think, on a development front right now. But our piece of it right now is getting the word out, because we also heard from developers who said, you know, we explored that area just 4 or 5 years ago and we were told no. And that's because we didn't have our new plan in place, we didn't have our zoning in place. And had they come just a couple years later, the answer might have been yes. So there's always an element of timing. And when we put this together, we said it's a 20 to 30-year plan. It's going to take time. It's going to take economics ups and downs in the development community to make that happen. So we'll continue to get the word out, let them know that Plainfield Avenue is open for business, and we're willing to work with them. Last Wednesday, I had the opportunity to join the North Valley Condo Association and a Mrs. Morrow in a petition for a special assessment district for repaving of their private roads. So that did pass their association quite overwhelmingly. And so that's something that we'll be bringing to you. We've done this a number of times, and state law allows the township to do a special assessment for a private road. It's really beneficial to the homeowners. They can ensure that everyone's paid their share fairly. It has the force of law like a tax bill, and so that compels payment by everyone. It also helps them make sure they have the cash up front to get that done, which then gets returned over the course of the special assessment district. We did discuss interest. I did note to them that interest is high right now, could be around 9%. I don't know, it's up to you, but that my recommendation would be something over what the banks charge as a prime rate, which last I looked was 8.25. So it's high. It's high right now, but residents always have the opportunity to pay that off without interest from the start. So that option is there. So that'll be coming to you. They want to pave yet in August, so this will have to be a fast process. We'll get it moving in a July meeting and go from there.
Just a little note, I go into church on Sunday and Doug Milholland grabs me. He says, "I need your vote." I said, "For what?" And then he was talking about this project. Doug lives the same developer as Susan.
Yes, Doug's been good to work with, and a number of residents there who asked a lot of good questions. And I didn't get the rough end of it. It was more about where are we going to park during all this, right? So that was the biggest concern. Where am I going to park when they're repaving our road? Yeah.
That's our problem at Meadowlark. Where are we going to park?
Yep, exactly. Last comment for you. This is our only meeting in June, only one in July. Don't forget that. But then in August, we're back to 2. We'll start our budget workshop process. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
We have some comments from the board.
I was just going to do that. Are you ready? You're
Sorry, I'm
jump.
getting ahead of you,
Yeah, you're jumping the gun, but if you're so eager to go, go.
Okay, first I'd like to thank lightning is what we were fearful of, and that they can move it to the fire department down here next to our township. The weather was great, couldn't have asked for better. We had great support from the gal from the VEPS facility down there. She did her usual good job. Mabel was real nice to the people too. And Pete McGregor helped us real well. But it was, and the Buildings and Grounds Department did, and Cameron, I'd like you to express that to them. They did an exceptional job. Because they had to get all those chairs in place, and the man that did it was John, and he was very helpful. Everything was perfectly set up. So we couldn't have gone off better, and we thank you all for
Bill, are you going to share with us why you brought a guest tonight?
What?
Why you brought a guest with you tonight?
Well, she's my loving bride of about 61 years now, but she wants to have a little treat for.
So Barb brought a treat for everyone after the meeting to celebrate Sue's 70th, is that correct?
Oh, you are so kind.
I
Add
stole that from
10
Art.
years onto that. But thank you very much. It's amazing. Still having fun.
I worked for her many years ago, and she was fulfilling her clerk duties, and so we go back a long way. So she's a very special person, and the number of birthdays that she's celebrating is a blessing from us.
For posterity.
Played as I push the button.
You're doing the minutes, right? You put it on the
Are
minutes?
you?
Okay, all set, Bill?
Yep. fine.
Susan?
All set. Oh, this is our comments, right?
Yes.
I had the most. And an enormous bus came up the street, and it said on the front, Meyer Plainfield, and it's an electric bus. Do we have an electric bus coming into Plainfield?
We don't, but the Rapid does.
Really?
I didn't realize they'd done an electric one there, but yes, the Meyer, Plainfield, the Plainfield Avenue route extended up to Meyer a few years back, and so they've been doing that for a few years, where that last stop is now in the Meyer parking lot, so.
Okay.
I hadn't seen an electric bus yet, but that's exciting.
It's very large, very, very large. Well, that's all I had to say. Oh, and we do thank Cameron for coming to North Valley. He did a good job. That we had, we needed 34 and we got 47. So he did a good job answering everyone's questions. Thank you. You're not gonna let me do this
No, I'm
job.
turning your microphone off. Jack, it's your turn.
No, I'm good.
You have nothing, okay. I'll just report, we had a supervisors meeting today. That meeting was based on and all talked about our brothers in Kent County spending some more money on law enforcement. For those of you that don't know, there was an incident in Grand Rapids last night that every police officer in Kent County and Ottawa County was asked to respond to. So some of our townships are not as blessed as we are. We pay a lot of money to have the sheriff's office provide us with staff. Some of the townships aren't like that. And so they're lucky to see an officer every once in a while. So those in the room that don't have that kind of funding ability are looking for the county to step up and maybe provide a little bit more. You know, we'll see if that happens. So that's about it. That's all I have, other than I'll see you all at the LPGA. Don't throw anything at me as I walk by. Yeah, John, I figured it would be you first. Okay, we're adjourned.